arms and body. And all form the head.
Hello everyone, Skippy here, and welcome to One Piece episode 1001, directed by Tasuku Shimaya and supervised by Masahiro Kitazaki and Keita Saito. For an episode immediately following the big 1000th, this episode has a surprising amount of promise, as not only is Shimaya just a competent and up-and-coming director in his own right, and Kitazaki and Saito are both a really strong supervision duo, but the staff like production manager Akahori seems to be rather excited for this one, and I'm interested to see where that leads to, as the preview itself doesn't show very much that would warrant something like that outside of one Luffy cut, so we'll just have to see it for ourselves. I'm gonna temper my expectations going in regardless so as to not be disappointed in any way, but will episode 1001 be an exciting surprise following episode 1000? Let's make a plan and find out. This episode covers the remaining pages of chapter 990, and while I'm personally a fan of the fact that they added filler scenes of Drake inner monologuing about his situation way before the whole issue comes to a head, as well as the actual confrontation of Queen, just so it feels a lot more cohesive, not just building it all up and then suddenly cutting to Drake bloodied on the floor, the rest of the episode is a bit, how you say, decent comparatively. It's not bad by any means, as I feel like scenes are still done a reasonable amount of justice, but there's something about Shimaya's direction here that just feels kinda lacking to me and is void of some of the vibrant punch and powerful OST that I typically expect from a budding director. Which doesn't do many favors for the scenes not surrounding Drake's problem, making it so they simply just get off by being fine. Combine that with an understandable but kinda unnecessarily long Oars flashback that I feel like could have been trimmed down in favor of maybe a longer recap, and the fact that I feel like some reworking could have been done for the Drake dialogue to place it before his and Luffy's attack so it doesn't disrupt the flow of the animation, the adaptation here doesn't end up being absolutely dreadful for all intents and purposes, but it's the kind of content that I expected more from directorially even in a mostly conservative episode, which leads us right to the storyboard. I feel like Shimaya mostly focused on the bigger overall action parts of the episode, because for the most part the board here is kinda like the adaptation in that it's just decent outside of that. While there are some nice shots here and there, I feel like way too often Shimaya doesn't go far enough with how cool this all could have been portrayed and instead decides to go for something a lot more low-key, which definitely might fit the situation better than more colorful or punchy direction would, but it just kinda makes this moment feel lacking for such a scary interrogation and overall larger moment for Drake. And even with the lower sheet count, I still feel like some parts could have been a bit more well-rounded as far as the ensuing battle goes, and use their lack of assets more to their advantage, like with the still scenes before Luffy and Ko go all out against the numbers. Like the adaptation, it's not dreadful or hard to look at, but I can safely say that like his direction, Shimaya's board left a lot to be desired here, and it's really the animation staff that I think heightened this episode to what I expected from it. With solid supervision from both Saito and Kitazaki that plays to their on-model and bold and shading-heavy styles respectively, the dialogue scenes look a whole lot more visually interesting than they would have otherwise and help out a good section of the episode plenty as a result. But it's really the cuts from Japanese Twitter animator Hone, who's done some solid work on the past in the show, that truly blow me away. With the scale and overall movement of his cuts with Luffy fighting the numbers taking so much inspiration from all over the landscape of anime in every crevice, whether it be Nakamura, Imai, or even our own Ishizuka, to show just what Luffy means when he says that things are different now, and to deliver us another intensely ambitious piece of animation this arc in what is no doubt Hone's best work. that was unexpected in an episode like this, but still feels oh so extremely appropriate, portraying the numbers like the Titans at Attack on Titan to realize the scene's true potential. Now, coming directly after the 1000th episode that had mostly everyone who was everyone on it, makes it so this episode had a bit of a rough time likely despite the action spectacle towards the end. But even when it's overall decent to me, and I wouldn't call it bad I don't think, I do think that Shimaya could have done a bit more to work around the said pitfalls that this episode has, but at the end of the day he's still a rather fresh director who's constantly learning, so I think I'll cut him some slack. which is also what I'm going to be doing for my expectations for next week's episode 1002, as it's yet another outsourced effort from the folks over at Magic Bus, which isn't a bad thing at all. But even with the Yutaka Nakashima board, I shouldn't be expecting the absolute world of this episode due to the obvious circumstances of ones that are outsourced, so I'll just be looking towards an episode that might feel less bombastic than an in-house episode, but one that should still hopefully be solid, all things considered. Anyways guys, that's it for now. I'm Skippy, and Queen Seiyu never fails to stand out, does he?